Hi, welcome to Quirky Queen's Journals. My name's Kirsten. So if you watched my last video, you'll know that I was very excited to get some high flow acrylic paints. Aren't they magical? They are so wonderful. So this is golden. It cost me £35 for 10 of these. So they're tiny bottles, but you see what one drop does. It's quite amazing. I have put down a mixture of water and pouring medium. Now, I think you can do it with just water as well, but pouring medium gives you more high flow, so therefore it kind of seemed logical. Also, I have sped this up 2.5 times, so it still moves very fast. You know, it just looks slightly faster there. But I have only sped it up 2.5 times. So, I just think it's beautiful. And I love the way that the colours are merging around one side. So the information leaflet says that it will react differently on a variety of mediums. So I think this is a paint that you could really be very experimental with. Now, I've stayed very simple here. All I've used is the pouring medium and water with some titanium white paint as well. That is the only time I actually use the heat gun on it, because I feel that the heat gun itself is a way to work with the paint. So therefore, I only used it to dry when it was nearly dry. But if you think about the movement and the heat coming from the heat gun, then, you know, that should affect it as well. I really stuck to just tilting and kind of laying the colours on top of each other and that kind of pouring medium and water mixture. So you can see there on top of the paint that it moves much slower and the edges are much more, they're like dendrites, they kind of travel in little lines. Whereas when it was into the kind of water and pouring medium, because there was a kind of river to run through, it just moved in a sort of, where the lines were really quite straight. So I'm just encouraging a bit of movement here. So the paint's still wet. So there's a mixture of the paint, the pouring medium and the water there as well. So, I mean, it doesn't come out to be the best painting in the world. This is really just about the actual showing you these high flow fluid acrylics, which I just think are absolutely phenomenal. So they're like the Liquitex acrylic inks. But I've watered my acrylic inks down so much that I can't really tell what they're capable of now, if you know what I mean, because I didn't know you could do this back when I purchased them. So to me, this feels quite like, you know, when they do the paint pouring and the way that there's a lack of control over what happens with it, and you get a reaction really quickly across the canvas. And that's how I feel about these. I feel that these are quite, you know, these could be really quite exciting to work with, and you could do lots of different things with them. And I wonder if there is a way, if you added silicone or whatever. Basically, I think that these are capable of more than I know. So, I just love it, honestly. They're like, you know, it's so transparent when it does that into a river of water or whatever, the pouring medium. It just bursts delicately. So I've been putting them in, you know, that obviously the red, black and yellow was dry, and then I've went back in and made this kind of diagonal river on top of that, and I've been working in that. I've came back in and worked on it again once it was still wet. It dried for about half an hour. So what I would say as well is I think it is best to work in layers, because I think that you could get very muddy if you just start throwing it all on the page hoping it'll just work on the first go. You can also see that they move slower once the river of water and pouring medium is kind of dried a bit. And that in itself gives a different effect. Oh, here I go with the black. Oh, this is good. I do like the black on it. This makes me think of a bee. That's quinacridone in gold, yellow, red and black. And that's it dried. So I'm just putting out titanium white paint again on the other side. You can also see the difference in intensity of colour between the first layer and the second layer. The first layer was really just one kind of, laying down the colours, and that was it. Whereas the second kind of diagonal river, I'd put down much more of the acrylic high flow paint. And also, I think that when I went back in after it had dried a while, that also intensifies the colour. So this is where I just go for it. I'm starting to bring in complementary colours, and I'm really just kind of thinking, right, let's push the boundaries a wee bit more with it. So I'm just spreading that out a bit further. So I've splashed that on, so I've not got much control over where it's going to go, apart from where I add them to, obviously. I've actually started at a big canvas with it, a big 90 by 90 centimetre canvas with it. So when that's completed, I'll show you that in one of the videos as well. Oh, I'm clearly contemplating what colours I'm putting on next. I love when you pour it in as well, you push it in. And that's another way to control where it goes, because when I put that blue on, it really pushed the quinacridone gold back the way. You can get some lovely patterns that you would never be able to make with a paintbrush. So this is a canvas panel that I'm using, and on the bigger picture that I'm making, it's a proper canvas. And I do think that it gives you more movement. It allows you to, because you can push down with the paintbrush on the canvas in an area, and that will encourage paint flow towards it. Whereas the canvas panel's very rigid, you're quite limited. I did try it on watercolour paper with the acrylic inks from Liquitex that were quite watered down. I haven't quite mastered that yet, but what I will say was that with the paper you could manipulate it a lot more. I wish that it dried looking like this. It does change when it's dried. It's I think some of that, as well as the pouring medium, helps it look so lovely. It does dry. I mean, where the colours are sitting, it does dry. Like that. It's just that I think there's more graduation between the colours, and so it's not as vibrant, I suppose. The difference isn't so noticeable. You'll see it in a minute, because I leave it to dry overnight, and colours are very rich and they have a lovely shine to them as well. So I'm just going back in, they're on the bottom left hand corner, it was quite a block of light blue, so I was just adding in a little more of the quinacridone gold, just to add a bit of variation. So that's it there, and that's it dried overnight. So it's still stunning. It's just, I think that the kind of waves effect that you have when it's still wet is beautiful. So I'm only using the paint now, and I have sped this section up to 10 times because you don't want to see me just painting in white around it. I'm basically just trying to make it more of, I'm showing that you can actually turn it into a lovely abstract art picture. I think as well you could use this to draw, like people use watercolours to do their flowers and everything, and they'd use these techniques where they put the water down and then they put a dot in the middle that flows up, and then they put a dot at the end of each petal at the top, and it flows down and it looks like a lovely flower. They make it look easy. I cannot do that. I think you could use it for techniques like that as well. Also, I'd probably use it as more of a mixed once I've got to know it more. I've used it a lot more. I probably would use it just with everything else that I use as another part of the mixed media, because that's quite, I like to use a bit of everything. I like to just do what feels right at the time when I'm making art. And I also think that variety is part of what I like the best. So, like, you'll have sharp lines and you'll have blurred lines and that sort of thing. And so obviously using different mediums is part of that. I hadn't realised I'd covered so much of it up when I was painting it. So that's more of the high flow acrylic paint. So I'm using the quinacridone gold, the phthalo blue and the black, just to add, a bit of interest. So I'm going for lines. So I've got that set of lines, and then I put in a smaller set of blue and black. And what I'm using is, they're my cake icing tools that cost me £2 on Amazon. I'm using them to make sharp edges with. So on one tool I'm putting a dot of the colour, and then I'm slicing the other tool along it to cover, like I've done there with the colour shaper, you can see it more. I really need to get my roots done, it's terrible. I need to stop jumping into the video. Do you know, I really love the depth that's created with these. I do think layering with these is, it is going to give a lot of depth and richness to my paintings going forward. So for me, I think these were a fabulous purchase. I'm really happy with them. I mean, £35 was a lot of money, and I was like, However, I mean, that's £3.50 a tube. So, and that's me signed it as well. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.